Today I want to talk about cutting back your chives and these awesome little pom-pom things that are called Chive Blossoms and something you can do with them. So let's chive on, shall we? My name is Nicole Burke and I'm in love with gardening, mostly kitchen gardening. So growing a little bit of food for myself and my family right outside my kitchen window. And today I want to talk about chives. So these, I actually talk about this in my book, Kitchen Garden Revival. Chives are like the very first thing you should start with. If you've had zero success in the garden, chives are such a fantastic first thing to grow. Chives are super forgiving. They can deal with part sun, part shade, all sun. They can grow when it's cool. They can grow when it's hot. They can tolerate lots of rain, lots of drought. They're like your BFF in the garden is what I like to say. You know, like your best friend is someone who can put up with you when you give her a lot of attention and when you neglect her and when you don't give her the time and the attention she needs, she still loves you. Chives are kind of like that. So I first started with chives. My mom actually gave me a pot for my front stoop when we lived in Nashville, and it was planted with garlic chives. And that was probably one of my first introductions to this idea of having something growing outside that I would come and harvest regularly to use inside. So I had like 4 kids, but I had 4 kids at the time, all under 4.5 years old. And on Saturday mornings, I would make omelets and I would step out to my front stoop and harvest chives to put on the omelets. And y'all, I felt like I was Ina Garten or Martha Stewart or, I don't know, some famous, awesome cook. And it kind of just whet my appetite, if you will, for growing a little bit of food in a simple way. So ever since then, I always put chives in my kitchen gardens. I love to grow them, especially on the edges. Now, when I gardened in Houston and for our clients with Rooted Garden, we grow chives there year round. So I say, like, whenever I go to the grocery store and I see chives for sale in Texas, I'm like, why? This makes no sense. Because you could literally grow enough chives for your whole block just in like a little pot or something. I mean, it's crazy how easy they are to grow. So in Houston, we grow them year round. They're always growing. And here in Chicago, I plant them and they always come back. So these are the first green to pop up as soon as the ground starts to thaw in the spring. So they will die back all the way in the winter. They'll die back, they'll turn kind of yellowish, almost grayish, and completely, like, I just pull them out. It's just like dry grass, or they're even kind of soggy if they get snowed on. But then as soon as it starts to warm, probably early March, the chives pop up, and it's such a welcome sight and such a sign that, like, okay, we maybe are going to make it through another winter. So these chives, like I said, all have been planted. These were planted back in 2019. So they're now 2 years old and came back from the winter. And within usually a month or 2 of them popping up, they start to produce these gorgeous chive blossoms. So this is simply the chives way of making seed. So inside each of these blossoms is little florets. Let me see if you can see that this is a good one. It's got all these little floret things inside. And each of those, if dried, will produce a seed. Now, onion chive seeds are very tiny, little bitty circular seeds. And these chives are currently producing them. Now, when I was gardening in Houston, we would get these, but not as beautifully or prolifically as we get here in Chicago. So tell me in the comments, depending on where you garden, if you get a lot of chive blossoms, because it'd be interesting to note based on where we're gardening if we get more or less. But I found that I get way more here in the Chicago area, and my suspicion is because they die back totally in the winter. So chives, not only, you kind of have the opposite problem with chives, not that you aren't getting the growth, but that you almost get too much. So right now I currently have way more chives than I'd ever be able to use in the kitchen. And so you want to kind of keep them at bay. I mean, there's no harm in having more chives, and chives are a fantastic companion plant. I call them interrupters in the garden. So they put off that oniony smell, which most pests don't like. So they're a fantastic thing to grow alongside lettuces and cilantro and kale, plants that typically attract aphids and caterpillars and things that love to eat green leaves. Having allium plants near them kind of interrupt their buffet, and also will kind of throw them off sometimes with the smell. Not always, but sometimes. So they're great to have, but if you have too many, or if the plant just seems like it's not as healthy, spring is a great time to cut back your chives. So I often like to do a full harvest of the chive blossoms. With these, I can make a chive blossom vinegar. So they're super easy recipes. Basically, you just heat the vinegar, pour them over the blossoms, and you get this gorgeous pink vinegar that you can use on salads and and garnishes and things like that. It's super tasty, but it's also healthy for the plant to kind of prune it back. So you can learn all about, you can also divide chive plants at this time, but generally I divide my plants earlier in the season. So when they first pop up, the way you would divide them is you kind of dig into the root ball, and what I could have done, I'll show you in this plant, you can see how many are in here, right? So I could literally take a hori-hori or a garden shovel, dig in about halfway through, and take this entire chunk of chives and go replant them elsewhere in the garden. So that's called dividing. Now you will lose some, like as you make that cut, you'll end up damaging the roots on some of these plants. But for the most part, they'll survive, and you'll end up really maintaining the health of your plants. It's this thing of dividing plants and rooting plants that made me fall in love with the garden in the first place, because I was like, oh my goodness, this is so amazing that plants basically reproduce themselves by themselves. I used to landscape my whole first yard in Houston by literally dividing plants and moving them around my landscape. So I've got all these chives. I can take these in. You can see what happens on the chive blossom stems. They're actually much more rigid than the typical chive that you would have, say, as a garnish or to eat in your dishes. So I generally I discard these stems or compost them, and then use the chive blossoms either as a garnish on a salad or for the chive vinegar. And then what I'll try to do is usually do a hard cut back on these chives. Now here we're reaching like the 90s this weekend, so I would not try to say replant these or divide them at this point, but I do like to give them a hard cut back at this point after they've flowered, and I'll cut back pretty low. I still leave, some on the plant, but these are not going to regrow from the tips. You're going to get new growth from the center of these plants, but I generally will do a hard cut back just like that right after I harvest the blossoms. Generally this keeps the plant nice and healthy through the summer, and I'll just have chives for life. So if you're a beginner gardener, you have got to start growing some chives. If you feel like every other thing you've tried to grow has been a fail, I promise you this will not. So I would start from a plant, not from seed. You can plant seed, but that's a little bit next level. I would start from a plant, plant it on the corner of your raised bed kitchen garden, or even plant it in a pot like my mom gave me. And don't overwater it, don't give it too much attention, and you'll find these plants are just super hardy, super sustainable, and you're gonna feel like Ina Garten or Martha Stewart or some other great cook when you pull these chives and put them on your own omelet. So let me know in the comments your favorite ways to use chives, because oh my goodness, I have a few, and this is just from one plant. So let me know if you have any questions about growing chives, where to get great plants, and here's to you and your kitchen garden success. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.